It's intermission time. It's great to get out to the movies.
This is Megan Braun, the host of the Synagogue podcast Intermission, and today I have Charlotte and Dani on the show. Do you two want to introduce yourselves?
Hello. I'm Dani Girdwood.
I'm Charlotte Fassler.
And this is a question we ask everyone that comes on the show. It stumps some people. I don't know if it will stump you, but if you had to pick a movie that describes your life right now, what would it be?
Oh, 100% got this. Mary-Kate and Ashley's Winning London.
Okay, great answer. And what's yours?
That was ours, joint.
Oh,
yeah.
joint one?
Yeah. We have separate for some and then some are joint,
The Mary-Kate and Ashley movies are like ingrained in my head. I had all the VHS tapes of them. Like, I didn't own them. My neighbor across the street who was like older and cooler than me, I'd go over and watch them and borrow them.
An icon.
We ride for Mary-Kate and Ashley.
Always. And no doubt that neighbor of yours is like on to better things today. Like, I mean, she's probably killing it. She's probably the president of everything.
It's a good seed to plant for movie lovers.
Yes,
100%.
exactly.
That's what the real cinephiles like, Mary-Kate and Ashley.
Okay, wait, and tell me why, and the listener, why that's your pick.
Well, so right now we're on a bit of a wild ride. We just directed this feature film, My Fault London, which is a YA romance action thriller that takes place in London. And it just feels like we're kind of like, this duo that's just jumped into, sort of plunged into the world of London and had to, make this movie together and have such an adventure doing it.
Okay, so obviously we're going to get into your film in a bit, but just for the listener to get a feel for you two, what movies you like, who you are as people, what kind of film, I have a feeling I know what you're going to say, but what kind of films did you grow up watching?
We were chatting about this earlier and I was like, oh, of course Dani was a big adventure movie kid. She loved The Goonies and Jumanji and National Treasure. Hook was a big one too. Julia Roberts in Hook.
Yeah.
Tinkerbell.
Yeah. Transformative experience
Love
for
that.
me.
Love that.
Tooth Fairy with Kirstie Alley was another one that we just came to mind because of It Takes Two with the Olsen twins.
Yeah.
But we're a big Spielberg household, so like Jaws, Duel, like, Hook. It was very like in terms of like big set
cinematic,
pieces, big cinematic, but also like adventurous, also like coming of age discovery films. I think that was like a lot of where it started for me. And Char, I feel like a good way of kicking yours off is like a lot of like incredibly empowering female ensemble. Very wish fulfillment is definitely where we overlap in our taste as well. And also all of your favorite movies are definitely some of my favorite movies. But like Little Women, bring it on.
The Little Women one with
Winona Ryder.
Yeah.
That
Of
version.
course,
Yeah, that was
of
big.
course.
That was big. Or like Ever After was a big movie that I loved. The Parent Trap was huge. That was my number one. Also,
Hocus Pocus.
Titanic. Was obsessed.
Yes.
Yeah. Sound of Music was a big one in the household.
Almost everything you guys have said, not everything, but most of these films I have on VHS, like my parents' house, and I'm wondering like where those are now. I need to retrieve them.
I remember we had Little Women and I'm really going to age myself now, and Ever After and Sound of Music on Laserdisc.
Okay.
We were a Laserdisc household.
I like that you said each other's. That's fun.
Yeah.
Some favorite directors off the top.
I mean, I think we're both huge Sean Baker fans.
Cool.
As well as like, but then into that, like we already covered Spielberg, but like Gary Marshall and, in terms of like, I think today's like, Helena Rain.
Like Emma Seligman.
Reed Moreno.
Yeah. Catherine Hardwicke. Andrea Arnold.
Andrea Arnold was like hugely formative for me in terms of like the first short film I ever like remember like being mind blown by. It was her film The Wasp, which is incredible.
Did you guys, before when you first met each other, did you have these directors in common that you liked? Or is it something that when you spend a lot of time with someone, then your like tastes mold together?
Yeah. You start to talk the same, you start to dress the same. I don't think it's interesting because like in some ways we're this like Venn diagram of like we both bring very different things to the table, which in some ways like I think when we get to talking about the movie, there's like a lot of room for that as well. But I think immediately there's a sort of like quite chemical, like, I don't know, just this excitement of like sparking off talking about movies together, especially these movies that like, aren't necessarily always like people aren't cutting their teeth on per se, but like we have always deeply loved and have seen so much in. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I think those formative childhood movies are such a fun way to kind of get to know each other's taste, or at least feel more connected to somebody. Like, we both discovered that we were both deeply obsessed with the animated movie Balto as kids.
Cute.
About the
Yes.
sad dog
Yes.
who has a statue in Central Park. But that's
I
such
didn't know that.
Yeah, Balto's a true story.
That's a great
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a good way of putting it. It's such a good way to get to know someone. And I think like truly like it's fun naming Charlotte's favorite movies because there's so many of them are my favorite movies too.
Yeah.
And I think our taste really aligns.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also really nice to learn from each other.
Yeah.
And the things that maybe were formative for Dani versus things that were formative for me that we hadn't seen of each other's. And we spent a lot of time together in lockdown, and we watched a lot of each other's favorite movies during that time, which was fun.
Fun.
Yeah.
If your life were a movie, what genre would it be?
I think we would be a buddy comedy. I'm going to answer for both of
Cute.
us
100%.
because we are a duo. We've been in so many strange, funny situations together where we've had to navigate our way out of them. And I think it kind of reigns true for being a duo. And a huge part of our way through it is laughing with each other and making fun of situations that we're in.
Yeah, it's like a dark buddy comedy.
I like that. I like that a lot. I was thinking like I would love for my life story to be a little more like artsy fartsy, but I'm someone who like as much as like I like to consume serious things, I'm not very a serious person, so it just wouldn't like line up with who I am. Like the movie I'm thinking of specifically, the Joaquin Phoenix movie that's A24 and it's black and white and he's like an NPR.
Yes.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Like I wish my life was come on, but it's not, you know?
Yeah.
Is there a movie you irrationally defend even if you know it's not good?
Yeah. Pretty much all my taste in movies is movies that are under 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. But I really think that's more of a problem with culture than it is with the movies.
Yeah,
And
valid.
we seriously ride for She's the Man. And
Incredible.
would absolutely defend that movie. It's
It's
Shakespeare.
Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Incredible movie. That's great. Is that your answer as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hopping on. What? I'm not gonna beat that.
Yeah.
She's the man.
Yeah.
I mean,
So quotable and everyone's seen it.
Yeah.
Even the people who like think they're too cool for it, they've seen it.
Yeah.
When she's like, "What's your favorite cheese?" "My favorite's Gouda." Like, that's an important moment.
That's a great answer.
a
I know we have a
cultural
lot
pillar.
of people that come on that are just like a little bit too like highbrow with their film taste, and I'm like, are you being honest? Like, is this really what you're watching all
Yeah.
the time?
I mean, we can go there. Like,
Yeah.
we've got range.
Yeah.
But like, it's more fun to talk about like, you know, I don't know, formative moments.
It's
Yeah.
more relatable. I mean, we can pull those things out too, but it's
And
more
they're
fun to be
obvious-
really authentic.
Yeah, and they're deep references as well for us.
Yeah,
but,
deep
like,
cuts.
Deep, yeah, exactly. But like some of these more like, I don't know, more playful ones are just like a little bit quicker to the get to know you part.
Yeah.
Okay, if you could swap the lead actor in any movie with someone completely unexpected, who would it be?
I love my man Bill Paxton so much.
Mm-hmm.
But in Twister, the original,
Yeah.
Helen Hunt is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I would love Sigourney Weaver to have played Bill Paxton's character and
Sick.
just gay. Just make
Yeah. I love
it
that.
gay. Make it gay.
Hell,
I do love Bill Paxton though. Bill,
Uh-huh.
if you're listening.
I like this a lot. That's great. That's a great answer.
I co-sign. Yeah.
Which movie character do you relate to the most, for better or for worse?
The Twister from the aforementioned Twisters. Or Twister.
Yeah?
Yeah, the Twister, the actual Twister.
Oh, like
the tornado.
Yeah. Okay.
Very much so.
Okay, love that. Love
Yeah.
that. Well, isn't the updated one is Twisters? It's the twin Twisters. So is
Yeah.
it the two of you?
I mean, maybe it could. Oh my God. Maybe
Great.
it could
Check,
be.
check.
I was going to say, like, I think there's still a part of me that deeply relates to Bella Swan in Twilight.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Uh-huh.
That was a deep awakening and early cult fandom to me that I really wanted to trade places with her and be her and understand what it felt like to be the chosen one by Edward.
Yeah, she was so different.
Yeah.
I definitely dressed up as her for like a school dance one year.
Amazing.
Great character. Also, it's funny
Still
that you
dressing
bring
like
up
her.
Twilight because I actually was thinking a lot about Twilight after watching your guys' movie.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Because that's like yeah, like YA movie and like fawning over a guy. Like that's like where my head went, but we'll get into that. If you could live inside the world of any movie for a week, which would you choose?
I think Best in Show.
Yeah?
Oh my God, 100%.
And what about that world do you like?
The characters for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's endless.
Like you want to be around those people.
Oh my gosh. It's like watching that film. It's like when it ends, you're just craving more. Like, 'cause it's so much improv. It's just so brilliant that I could eat it up for a whole week for sure.
I love it.
I'm not sure, but I'm going to go with on the plane ride over, I rewatched Clueless. And I do think it would be really fun to go to Bronson Alcott High School and live in Cher Horowitz's closet for a week and be in the 90s in that moment in time.
Great answer.
Yeah. Great movie. Great clothes.
And have the technology to dress myself in the closet. I don't know why they haven't really advanced that for considering all the technology we have now. There's not a paper doll computer game where you can swipe through your closet.
Yeah. Back in the day when like Disney Channel, you know, when like Disney and Nickelodeon, they would have like websites and web pages of games and stuff. And there was a game for like, I think it was Lizzie McGuire, and you could like kind of essentially do
Great
that.
show.
Yeah.
Great
Lizzie
movie.
McGuire movie.
I would like to live in the world of the Lizzie McGuire movie, actually.
Yeah.
I
Sing
would
to me,
love, I would love to have like Sing to Me, Paolo.
Yeah.
And like
You two could recreate the scene where the
Hey now.
Lizzie,
the two Lizzies.
the
Lizzie
purple and the
Isabella.
green outfit.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I think
It
I would
be
like
at
to
my
live in
honor.
that. I would like to live in that movie, I think.
Amazing soundtrack, by the way.
What's a film that genuinely changed your perspective on something? It's pretty vague. I'm just curious where you go with this.
Was sort of like makes me go to the place of a film that was more of like a sexual awakening, maybe.
Okay.
Inspired like a first intense crush or that kind of thing, which for me was Titanic. I watched that movie when I was way too young and it was deeply inappropriate, but I feel like I was obsessed with young Leo, thus launched the obsession with young Leo and that awakening.
I've said this on the podcast before that I also watched Titanic young, and I remember the scene with like the hand on the window.
Exactly.
Like that was like
Scandal.
to me, I think my first like sex scene. That
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that and then him drawing her
Yeah.
too.
Oh yeah.
I was like,
Sexual.
this is a very, I don't know what this movie is, but it's doing something.
I'm trying to think about, I mean, if it was going to be that, it would be like Blue Crush or something like that. But I think for me, Xavier Dolan's Mommy really fucked me up.
Yeah.
I heard we're allowed to swear on the podcast.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Xavier
You've heard
Dolan's
right.
Mommy really fucked me up. Like, I think I just felt so deeply cracked open at the end of that movie and couldn't stop crying. And I don't think I'd been affected like that. I mean, it wasn't even that long ago that I saw that movie. I mean, there were so many movies growing up, like Lassie, that like really wrecked me for a few days as like an 8-year-old. But like Mommy really got to me in a way that I just like, I think something about the emotional processing of that like changed me and how I don't know, just change. I don't know. Yeah.
I get that. I'm thinking now based off your answer, like a movie that randomly popped in my head that like fucked me up and really made me think for a while after, and this movie is fucked. But have you guys seen We Need to Talk About Kevin?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's a crazy movie.
It is
haunting.
really,
That's
really
like,
dark.
Yeah.
And also
Yeah.
just like an interesting perspective though, because it's like the behind the scenes curtain of someone who would do something like that and like the family they come from and the social dynamic. It was interesting.
Pretty raw.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I definitely have a fetish for fucked up movies. So
Yeah. Amen. Gosh, now I'm like thinking of so many others as well. Like The Illusionist to me was so I feel like I always bring up The Illusionist in random moments. But like
It's a great movie.
I mean it's so great, and I don't think I knew how crafted it was yet. Like I didn't have like the cinematic language to talk about it, but the way that it laid out all these pieces for you to eat and just, and then the crumbs all come back together. I thought it was just like I just was starting to understand structure and craft in that way.
Because I didn't study film, I often like feel like the way I talk about movies is so dumbed down. I'm like, yeah, it was really good, and I don't have the words for it, so I can't wait for one day I'm gonna rewatch these movies and like pick up things from like the perspective of someone who has that like knowledge,
Totally.
because I'm just like, oh yeah, I had a really good time, or like
I think the same goes now that we make movies and we been behind the camera so much, it's completely changed and sometimes ruined the perspective of how I watch movies, because I think you're looking at all these different layers and thinking about them in a way that sometimes can mitigate the actual enjoyment of that movie.
Yeah.
So, but it is interesting to go back and look at older films. Like, I remember we rewatched Matilda together, and we were like, this is very deeply crafted.
Really?
Film.
Incredible.
And Danny DeVito directed it, which I feel like people forget. And
he's in it.
And he's in it. But and his wife is in it as well. And yeah. And you look at all the layers. We were watching it, looking up who the DP was, who the production designer was, who did the costumes.
Who did the costumes?
Yeah.
Like, it was just the craft and the layers as it all came together in this like vibrant. But it's like, as a kid watching Matilda, like I didn't necessarily. It just, I mean, it all fed into it. But like you said, like I didn't have the cinematic language, and like nor did I need it in order for that to like cement itself deeply in my heart. You know,
that's a great reference. What is the weirdest double feature you have ever watched, or like would watch? You know what I mean?
I used to go movie hop at movie theaters when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And I do remember one time my best friend and I, we went to go see 500 Days of Summer, which we were so excited to see. And then what was playing next was The Orphan.
That's funny.
So we watched those two back to back, which I think was a big stark contrast.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
Yeah. And then recently I actually watched Hot Frosty and then Baby Girl.
Is Hot Frosty like a Hallmark one?
It is. Correct.
Is that the Lindsay Lohan one? No.
No, it's with Lacey Chabert.
Okay,
and
cool.
it's about a hot snowman.
Amazing.
It's like Jack Frost, but with a hot snowman.
Love it.
So that was it. It really lifted up Baby Girl in a really great way.
Okay, what about you?
I mean, I'm not gonna beat that.
I think I often watch things that are so weird to be pairing back to back, just because I'm like, oh, I have free time. I'm just gonna try to watch as many things as I can right now, and then nothing really makes sense.
I feel like airplanes are a prime place for a really strange double feature.
Yes.
Yeah, that is true. And also because on an airplane, I'm typically want to watch something like easy and silly.
Yeah.
And then I also really like to cry on airplanes.
Oh
I think
my
it's a
gosh.
good place to cry.
I watched Coco on a plane and I really regret it. It was like the saddest experience of my life.
I'm my most vulnerable on a plane. I
Yeah.
will lose it.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, it feels so good to cry in the sky.
Cry in the sky.
What's a movie that made you laugh way harder than you expected?
Honora.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
I didn't realize it was going to be that funny.
Yeah.
But it was truly hilarious.
Especially that like first act and into the second act. It's so like you just feel like couldn't stop smiling in the first act. Like it just feels so wish fulfillment-y, and obviously, you know, then it changes and takes turns and it's much deeper than that. But it was just so pure in so many ways.
I'm thinking of like them her fighting off the guys in the living room too. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Great movie. We had the man who did the music for that film on the podcast.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
Roman. He was awesome.
That's so cool.
Yeah, he was saying how it was funny because he had to make like club music and it was like really dirty. And he was like, I don't typically do that. And he was like, the lyrics are like really dirty.
Yeah. That's so wild.
What's a film you'd love to see get a totally unnecessary but fun sequel?
Coyote Ugly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Coyote Ugly, I think, gets brought. We've had a couple episodes where we talk a lot about fashion in relation to film, and that's like one of those movies that I feel like people will like put on Pinterest boards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like epitome of Y2K fashion.
Yeah,
I think.
exactly.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
is so has had such a moment. So yeah.
What got you into wanting to make films? This, I guess, we'll kind of get into like your background.
I grew up in Massachusetts, like totally so far away from the film industry. And I had this amazing film program in my high school. And my teacher, Justin Bull, who still teaches at Concord Academy and has just had his first feature made. I think it's her first feature that just premiered at up in Toronto. But he had, you know, created this film program that had like film 1, film 2, film 3, and we were running around shooting on Super 8 and, you know, splicing and cutting these little short films together. And, you know, what I think was the most amazing about that was that he just handed you a camera and said, go, and, you know, had these challenges of like making a parallel action sequence. And, you know, that was our first project, was going out and shooting a parallel action sequence and studying parallel action sequences in film. But I think it was like the exposure to He's Who Showed Me Andrea Arnold's Wasp, like, you know, in a film 2 shorts like program. And, you know, I think it was just this like encouragement of like showing you really compelling work, but then being like, okay, now you go and you try, and like encouraging a little bit of like replication, like try and match, and, you know, anyway.
I love this.
Yeah. So high school film.
That's sick.
Yeah, I also had a great film teacher in high school, Tom Kemper, and it was much more critical theory based and wasn't practical filmmaking. So we weren't actually making films or anything like that. We were more studying history and craft and story, which was really interesting. And I think for me, I'm more from a photography background. So that was something I was really, really passionate about growing up. And then, you know, as I got older, I continued doing. And so I didn't actually really think, I'm not somebody who's like, I always wanted to make a film, and therefore I did a lot of acting growing up and then got really into photography. And I think ultimately as I got older, I was able to see that all of these things collectively led in this way to filmmaking, because I loved storytelling and the visual side of it, but then also the craft side from an acting perspective. So I think that it all kind of came together in that way. Yeah.
After I graduated from high school, my mom introduced me to this woman whose daughter was a cinematographer, and the moms like basically match made us as like mentor and mentee, and that was Reed Morano, who then went on to do The Handmaid's Tale and went on to do, you know, so much. And so Reed was really young in her career, and I was baby. I was like sending her emails being like, what does a director do? And Reed was a cinematographer. She'd just been named, when we met, like IndieWire's like top 10 young cinematographers to watch. And so, and she'd just done Frozen River, and we met, and she was like, oh, and I was going to college in New York with Shar, and she was like, oh, you need to come and work on set with me. And she just scooped me up under her wing so generously. And she's now like, I mean, she's like my big sister, and
That's
she always
insane.
will be. But that's how I got on set. And so for the first like year of college, I like never went to school and was just skipping and going and shooting all-nighters and things with Reed around New York. But, and then from there on out, you know, she was a DP at the time. I thought I wanted to be a DP. And then Reed became a director, and she did her first film, and I was like, oh, I want to direct. So that was like how that happened for me. Yeah.
I right now, so I'm a graphic designer, and right now I'm like doing some art directing, but I have a good girlfriend of mine, and I keep telling her, I'm like, you're like my unofficial mentor. It's so important to have someone just kind of loop you in, and you can ask them all your dumb questions.
100%. I mean, I think that's why we love being in a duo so much. You'd said it so well the other day that I'm going to butcher it. So if you want to say it, go for it.
I don't even remember what I said. I can't wait to hear it.
I was like, I can't wait to watch this, because you were talking about being in a duo and how, as a director, oftentimes, if you're a single director, which is the majority of directors out there, you don't get to watch other directors direct that often. You don't. It's a very like siloed job. I mean, we learn so much from the people we surround ourselves with. It's a team sport.
It's actually, I think the directors spend the least amount of time on set than other people who work on set. So you think about an actor who can go from project to project, or you think about, you know, anyone who works in the camera department or in the art department, they're usually banking way more days per year than a director. So you actually are, in some ways, coming into, especially for us, coming into a first feature or coming from commercials where, you know, we'll shoot a couple of days here or like 2 days on a music video or something like that. We don't have as much experience, and we never get to watch other directors direct.
Yeah. And you get to learn from those like veterans who you surround yourself with. So like, you know, your production designer or especially your cinematographer. Our cinematographer on our movie, Ed Moore, was like the third, you know, our third brain. Like he's just, and so, but in that way, to your point about having a mentor and how I felt coming up under Reed and how I feel working with Charlotte, is I feel like I get, you were saying, like, I need someone I can ask the dumb question to. And like, it's so nice doing it together, because I feel like whenever I watch Char direct, I learn, and, you know, I hope vice versa.
Yeah, vice versa, for sure.
Yeah, that's
but I think Dani
cool.
having that deep background from being on set and watching Reed and being in the camera department, I think Dani had a huge source of confidence when it came to knowing so much more about the technical side of filmmaking than I feel like I knew, which I was really learning from her in that capacity. And I think it really is so fortunate to be able to actually see somebody else direct, because you don't get to do that on set
Yeah.
with other directors.
No, that makes a ton of sense. When I first interviewed you guys, I was like still trying to wrap my brain around, like, obviously there's the Coen brothers, but like just directing with someone, I just couldn't imagine like the nitty gritty of collaborating. But that's like a perspective I hadn't thought about, what you guys just shared.
It's interestingly often siblings or like married couples that are directing duos versus friends.
Yeah. Well, this is a good transition. I want to hear about Similar but Different. That's your like business name?
Yeah,
it's like our moniker for commercials and music videos, more so, to kind of have this collective name that created a little bit of anonymity and mystery, especially when we were first starting out and there really weren't it was very heavily weighted at male directors. So we kind of liked that there was maybe this more ambiguous name that would...
It's kind of like a DJ name.
Yeah,
exactly. Would like allow people to look at
DJ
our work as our work and maybe have a little bit of mystery of what gender we were, who we were at the
how old we were. I don't know.
Yeah, we were just sort of like, oh, there's something that... And also, we both have fairly long names. We were like, let's just loop us together.
And I mean, we didn't really shorten it with Similar but Different.
No, but it's cool.
And then we realized that the acronym SPD stood for Silent but Deadly, and we were like, well, we didn't think that one through.
We really credit that. No, I mean, it in some ways was this way to kind of like create, like Char said, this anonymity and this distance from it in some ways, and allow us to create work that was separate in case we didn't like the work that we were making. We were kicking it off. We were like, well, we should probably have an envelope to put this in. But at the end of the day, I mean, it summed up, I think, a lot about who we are. We're very similar, but we're very different. Mm-hmm. And I think our work is quite like different from a lot of what was being sort of, I think we were pushing the boundaries in some ways. But
and it was one of those things that when we came up with it, we didn't even want to labor too long over a name. We were just like, that works. Let's put it down. Let's make a website. Let's go for it.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I do think a lot of creatives get really stuck on like the conceptualizing, and it's like, well, you have to do like like a huge part of being a creative is just start doing.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's sick. Now we're gonna get into your film, but I feel like I need to, before we even do that, kind of bridge the gap. I'm kind of curious how we go from Similar but Different to My Fault London. Like, what is that trajectory? Because this is like an Amazon Prime movie. It's kind of a big deal. So how did that happen?
It's a huge step. So we'd been directing music videos and commercials under the name Similar but Different, as you'd explained. But we'd been doing some pretty, I mean, we started small, as everyone does, and, we were making music videos for friends. But then the ball started rolling very fast. And so suddenly we were directing really big music videos for like Katy Perry, the Chainsmokers, Liam Payne, and so on. But then we were also directing these like global campaigns for like a lot of fashion, a lot of lifestyle, but like, everything from Google to Diesel to...
I love Diesel.
Yeah.
Jeans.
Diesel jeans. Yeah. And Diesel's work is like it's so interesting and so compelling. And so we were like, Diesel was like always like a North Star for us in terms of advertising. And so we really, I think, made a name for ourselves in that world. And as we started looking for what would be our first feature and the next step, because I think with two of us, you're constantly pushing and wanting to grow and like, sort of like you found the ceiling and then like what's above that. And so we've been looking for the right project.
Yeah. And so when this script came to us, it's so interesting because when you read a script, you're looking at so many different layers of it. But I think that this one specifically, we read it and we understood exactly how we could make it. We could see our version of it, even though it has this, very wild story with all these different twists and turns, and, it kind of sits in all of these different genres. And I think that we saw that and we really felt like, oh, we could so envision what our version would look like, what it would sound like, what it would feel like. And I think that was really motivating for us to go in and be like, we're going to pitch on this, and we're going to pitch on this so hard and pitch this very out there version of it. And then if it doesn't happen, then that was an amazing experience of us feeling that energized by something, which I think we were kind of in a place where we weren't feeling super creatively inspired. There were strikes happening. The advertising industry was quite slow. I think we were in this place where we were really craving to feel really creatively motivated by something. And I think that idea of this film really allowed us to funnel all of that energy in and then feel really ignited again. So we felt like, okay, at the very least, that reinvigorated us in a way.
Yeah.
But then it moved forward into what it is now.
Yeah. And if I could add as well that like when we read it, it's not necessarily like the story itself, like the plot and the characters, and like there was something about it that was like, as we've made very clear so far, is that we grew up on these YA movies.
Mm-hmm.
We grew up on this wish fulfillment side, these, I don't know, these like films that make you feel good and take you on a pretty thrilling ride. And so when we saw that we had the chance to make something like that for a new generation, but to mature it, and we were like, oh, we could make this really sexy, and it could grow up in the same way that we did. Like, we can push it to be edgier and more cinematic. And I think we also saw opportunity in that we knew we could push it for Amazon. Like, we knew there was a place to come in and a benchmark of, like, what they'd done with the Spanish movie. And we knew we could take that, and we could, with a new city, we could make it really cool.
Yeah, because we know the expectation of what comes with a YA streaming movie. And I think that they are made so consistently because they're sometimes based off of books that have really deeply meant something to a young audience, or those films are then consumed in such a way and then reappropriated on TikTok and talked about and loved and are this awakening for kids. And I think that that's something where we felt like, all the movies that we grew up on were so important to us, and that we wanted to kind of give back in a way and say, like, okay, it's a YA streaming movie, but how can it be even edgier? How can we really go there with the music choices, or how can we create these really memorable moments that we had in movies from that time? Yeah.
Sweet. Okay. So now I'm just going to quickly say the plot of the movie, and then I'll go in more depth for like questions of that.
Sure.
So, and I just pulled this online. An 18-year-old girl moves from America to London with her mother and wealthy stepfather. She meets her stepbrother, and an attraction brews despite their efforts. Unaware, her estranged father tracks her down after release from prison. So like you guys said, the adaptation is it's an adaptation from a book series that they also made into like a film series.
Yeah.
How did working with Amazon Prime alter the experience versus this being like a feature film, not, being heavily, they produce, right?
So we worked with 42, which is a production company and management company. They produced the movie in conjunction, like in relationship with Amazon, I would say.
Cool.
Yeah, it's such an important piece of IP for Amazon because it had already been made. The books were originally written in Spanish and then made for the Spanish market in Spanish. And they'd done incredibly well. So it was a really important story for them to continue with, and very linked to them in that way because they'd put out the Spanish one as well.
And I would add, so in terms of your question about like how working with Amazon, how that influenced it, is that in some ways there was an ability for us to translate our working in commercials and working to this, because it meant that like we came in and we saw the boundaries of like where we could push the plot. We saw the boundaries of where we needed to push the plot. We saw all of that, but we also were working within a structure that like was very important, not only to Amazon, to the original writer, Mercedes Ron, who's amazing and we love, but this massive fan base. We were coming in, and in some ways I think the English version could have failed because there are very, very loyal Spanish fans that already have, a Nick and Noah that they love so much. And so us coming in and recasting for an English version, in putting it in a whole new city, it could have been really challenging, but I think we found, to your point about Amazon, we worked really, really closely with Amazon, and what was so nice about our executives there is that they know and love the genre just as much as we do. And so there was this like shared ambition of pushing it within that genre. And I think ultimately what's been pretty amazing to see in the last 48 hours, in the last 72 hours, is that the Spanish fans went from being really frustrated back when the film was announced, and like the social media comments were like pretty wild, that they were just, understandably quite frustrated. But the tide turned so fast when the movie came out that now we've been getting so much support and people coming and commenting on our posts being like, thank you. This is so great. And I think it's just been this like wild wave to see. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe there's
I was just say I think we were really lucky. I think we had the team at Amazon we worked with really trusted us, and I think a big part of that was because we came in with such a deeply detailed pitch of like exactly kind of what we wanted to do, what we wanted it to look like, what we wanted it to feel like, that I don't think we really left space for question marks, which to Dani's point is definitely something that comes from being trained in commercials.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's like you said earlier when you were saying that you didn't always think you would be a director. I think this project and this being your guys' first feature, it's like an accumulation of all your past experiences leads to having the skill set to make something like that, which is really interesting.
Yeah, it really feels that way.
Yeah. You never, like, I don't think anyone should ever pigeonhole themselves. Like, say yes to as many things, learn as many things. I think we kind of discussed this already, but would you say this movie's genre is your typical style, which I think you have a love for YA, but I wrote this as your style for directing and then your style for also consuming.
I think it's a really good example of our style for directing. I think it feels a lot like us, just with the sense of a lot of the visual style that's in it, the way it sounds, the way they're dressed, like all of these different creative layers, specifically the music and how musically driven it is, and where some of those moments lie. I think those layers feel very, similar but different.
Yeah.
In terms of kind of, I think people who would look at our work would be able to say, I can see where the trajectory led to this in terms of its feeling and its look and sound and everything.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Yeah, and I would say, like, I think because one of the things that drew us in is that it isn't just one genre. It is really an amalgamation of all the genres, because it does have that Spanish telenovela seed in terms of where it was grown
funny.
from.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. So it has so many different layers to it as far as genre goes, and I think that was another thing that was really appealing to us with directing it, was that we would be able to have this experience of these bigger action set pieces, as well as these really intimate romantic moments, as well as creating a high-speed car chase that felt scary and
really like Fast and Furious.
Yeah. Thriller, kidnapping. There's lots.
Really has it all.
This is something we not always, but often have guests do who are like on the show and they're promoting something, is to tell the listener and me some movies that you think if someone already likes this movie, they're going to like your movie. So if you have some films that come to mind, like if you like this movie, you'll probably like My Fault London.
I think if you have an affinity for YA and you're a millennial who loved What a Girl Wants or Cruel Intentions or...
Cruel Intentions, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think then this is something that you'll find that kind of enjoyment in. But then I think maybe if you're more Gen Z, it's in that vein of... And also Twilight. I would say Twilight.
Yeah, Twilight really came to mind when, like I said, when I watched it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, if you watched The Summer I Turned Pretty, or you like Tell Me Lies, or Maxton Hall, or there's a bit of Gossip Girl in it. Yeah, One Day. Like, I think
Gossip Girl is a really good one, I think.
Yeah,
TV and film is so intrinsically linked.
Yeah,
especially now. So that makes sense. Okay, so I don't know if there were any in the film, but I was wondering if there's any Easter eggs in the film, like nods to like scenes from films that you like, and if not, do you like when directors do that? And I want to hear more.
I love when directors do that, because it feels like a bit of a nod to anyone who loves movies. It feels like a little bit of like a wink of like, see what I did there, you know, like whether that's, Jordan Peele, I feel like does that so elegantly and like in such a clever way. And so that's, I don't know, I'm a huge fan of it. I feel like there's some Easter eggs and things in the movie that also are a bit of a nod for the fans to the Spanish movie, but also like to Fast and Furious, the Nissan that Nick drives and subsequently Noah races against Ronnie is like an ode to the car from the Fast and Furious.
Oh, cool.
From Tokyo Drift.
From Tokyo Drift.
That's sick.
Yeah, I would say, I think in essence and feeling, there's so many. We talk about how the opening montage when she first gets to London to Lily Allen and she's looking out the window and she passes through.
I didn't even realize until now that the Lily Allen song.
Yeah.
That's great.
And it's like you see Tower Bridge and all of these places that feel like the most, and Big Ben and all of this very ridiculous, unrealistic drive from the airport. But it has that feeling in The Parent Trap when Hallie first goes to London and is looking out the window at all of those different locations. I think that was something that we wanted to recreate in our own way.
Cute.
Or I even think the voiceover at the end has a feeling that is similar to the ending voiceover of Twilight, when it seems like she might be dying and then comes back.
Yeah. Okay, sick. I love that. If your lead characters had letterboxed accounts, what would their top favorite films be?
I think they'd both have Tokyo Drift.
Yeah,
Best
definitely.
Appearance Tokyo Drift
Definitely.
on, so that one for both of them.
Yeah.
I think she would have Blue Crush as a little nod to her surfing background.
Cool. Yeah.
And
I think she'd also have like 13, like
Yeah.
something
Oh,
like
yeah.
quite rebellious.
Yeah. Great movie.
maybe he would have, Rebel Without a Cause.
Okay,
Yeah.
Probably like Fight Club as well.
Definitely
Yeah.
Fight Club, yeah.
And then like maybe also like Memento.
Yeah. Like, I think he would have something that's a little bit like, I'm deep.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
edgy.
yeah.
He's edgy, guy's
He's like,
guy.
yeah, I'm
I feel like
edgy.
she could have like Donnie Darko as well, because she
Yeah.
can go toe to toe.
Cool.
Yeah,
You know, she's like,
Yeah, because in a sense, they did find each other's match.
yeah.
Yeah. I like that. The last question I have for your movie, if you had to give this movie a tagline that was way too honest, what would it be?
Oh, we like had a joke about this, but thought it would be, it's Romeo and Juliet, but instead of two families, they're from one.
Oh, that's good. I like that. That's really good and
Yeah.
concise.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, everyone when I was watching it, everyone in the crowd was just being so like, oh my God, like so sexy and like, I don't know, like bad because of like
Yeah.
the premise or whatever.
Yeah. Were
Without giving-
people quite like a lot like reactive in the screen?
Yeah.
that you'd
Were you
watched?
guys in the room?
We weren't in the room
No.
for yours.
Oh yeah, no, it was like super like talky, but in a good way.
Yeah.
We love
Yeah,
that.
we love that.
Yeah.
We always say that like this film is interactive. Like please,
Yeah,
you know,
no,
like
yeah.
call out at the screen.
Exactly. There was like a bit of that.
Yeah,
it was
we
fun.
love that.
Oh, I wish you guys. Well, also it's like redundant to watch your movie so many times.
We've seen
but
it a lot of
was-
times.
Yeah.
It is really fun, though, to watch it in a theater because it is a streaming film and you actually get to experience the sound of the movie in a completely
And
different
the
way.
music in this movie
yeah.
is really fun. So
Yeah, and the
Thank
shared
you.
experience of like there's a lot that plot wise there's a lot to buy into.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
a lot going. You got to make some jumps
Yeah.
in terms of like
That's funny.
cause and effect.
Yeah.
And watching it in a theater, I think sometimes you buy into things faster because everyone else around you
Yeah.
is buying into it too. So
Group
like
mentality.
The
versus
energy.
like watching it on your own and you can kind of like start to wander and question things.
Yeah.
But I love the energy
Yeah,
of
group
it.
Yeah.
think of a theater. I like
Yeah.
that. That's
Yeah.
funny. Okay, well now we're gonna go into a little game, our segment This or That Film Edition. I'm just gonna do two different scenarios, and I wonder if you guys have to be in agreement. I don't know. We'll see how this first
Let's
one
see.
goes.
I
Yeah.
feel like
Test.
we might be in agreement for a lot of things.
Okay.
But let's see.
Every movie you watch has an unnecessary musical number, or every movie you watch has an unnecessary jump scare.
Musical number.
Jump scare. I do love a musical number, but a jump scare. Oh, love it.
Only watch horror movies that aren't scary, or only watch comedies that aren't funny.
Horror movies that aren't scary for sure.
God, that's yeah. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
agreed.
Nothing's more painful than a comedy that's
That's
not
not
funny.
funny, yeah.
Oh, that's awful.
I think
yeah.
I'm in agreement.
Yeah.
Every movie plot twist is spoiled for you ahead of time, or every movie ending cuts off 10 minutes before it's over.
Ooh, being spoiled.
Yeah,
The
yeah, for
spoiled,
sure, for sure.
Right?
Yeah,
What do you
having
think?
yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'm in agreement. Having a movie end at like an awkward time right before would be infuriating.
It's
Yeah.
also spoiling it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
It would like
There
ruin your enjoyment of all movies.
All your favorite movies get remade badly, or your favorite director retires forever.
Favorite director retires forever.
Yeah, I think end on a high note.
Yeah, and on a high note, and then we can still appreciate them and really
Yeah.
enjoy what they've made.
Nothing gets ruined.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of inevitable that things get remade, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yes.
yeah.
Only watch movies on a phone for the rest of your life, or only watch movies with the worst audience imaginable, like talking and, you know.
Oh no, this one's really.
That's
hard.
really hard. I think phone.
I think phone.
I would do
have
phone
to watch
also.
phone.
I think phone. Yeah, bad audience can.
can just. Oh, it would be so infuriating.
Yeah, I think phone as well. I also I admit on the podcast a few times to watching movies around my apartment. I'll just go from room to room and bring my phone with me.
Bring your phone
which
with
I know,
you.
which is bad.
But at least you're watching.
Yeah.
And then final one, every movie you watch stars Willem Dafoe as the lead in a psychological thriller, or every movie has Meryl Streep playing an empowering, larger-than-life character.
Can we have both?
Oh my god, both.
Yeah.
Two good
Please.
scenarios.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I love together as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So both. And
Yeah. Refuse.
Yeah.
I mean, Meryl will win always.
Yeah,
in my heart.
honestly,
Probably
she
Meryl.
will.
Did you guys see? I don't know when this will go live, but yesterday was the SNL 50-year
Oh my gosh.
reunion, and Meryl, I think it was her first sketch ever with SNL, which is shocking that she hadn't been on SNL before. But she's supposedly with what's his name, Martin Short.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
saw she was
cute.
in the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Of
of the
the
concert.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I haven't watched. I've just watched some highlights
Yeah,
from it.
it's-
I haven't.
yeah. The
I think
highlights.
that'll be an airplane thing for me tomorrow.
Well, was there anything that you kind of wish was in this episode that you didn't touch on yet, in regards to movies or your movie?
Back to the section of when we made the movie and it being a YA movie that we knew we could mature and
Yeah.
make it sexier and edgier. We also knew coming in, we love this genre so much, and we knew coming in what we were making. And so we weren't trying to make it something it wasn't. And so it meant coming in and leaning into the genre,
Yeah.
but elevating a lot of the craft around that. And so embracing the genre for what it is and trying not to force it out and putting the fans, first as well as a bit of an ode to everything we've ever loved that we,
Yeah.
So I think that was important versus we didn't come in and make it for the critics. We came in and made it for each other. We made it for the fans. We made it for all the movies that came before that informed this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's well said, and I think knowing our audience was such a big part of why we felt confident in this film, and I think it's been incredibly satisfying and exciting to see how receptive they've been to it, even just in the last 72 hours, what's happening on TikTok with the film. It feels really good to feel like we knew the audience we were making it for, because it was also us when we were younger.
Yeah.
And then being able to see that it's really resonating with them in the way that we would have hoped.
And I don't think I understood what was going to happen when it came out. I don't think I understood that it was going to be number one in 80 countries or something like that.
Wow.
I don't think I knew that. I knew it was these fans were gonna love it. I knew it was gonna get cut into these fan edits. I knew that the fans would go crazy for it because we believed in it so much, but I didn't know those numbers were gonna happen.
Wow.
So that's pretty
That's
crazy.
so sick.
That's
Yeah.
pretty wild.
Congrats. That's really
Thank
sick.
you very
Thank
much.
you.
It's crazy.
To wrap this up, I want you guys just to plug, obviously, where they can watch it, but you can say that.
Yeah.
And then let's end this with, if you can name drop either a filmmaker, an actor, or project you're excited about, just to bring awareness to something for the film lovers listening.
You can watch our film My Fault London on Amazon Prime worldwide.
Yeah.
And it's out currently.
Yeah.
It's
it's
out
currently
currently.
out, yeah.
Check it out. Let us know what you think. Want to know your favorite scene or favorite music moment. And then in terms of, should we each do one?
Yeah, go for it.
I would say from our movie, there's so many amazing young casts that are going to go on to do insane, incredible things. And the talent pool from an acting perspective is really impressive. But Sam Buchanan is such a gem. He plays Ronnie in our movie, which is one of the villains.
Oh my God. Yeah,
Young
he was good.
He's
Yeah.
so
Such a
good.
crazy smile. He just had a crazy look in
Oh
his
my
eyes.
God, he's incredible. And he's also truly the most amazing gem of a human. So he's so lovely to be around, but can turn it on for such a crazy villain character as well. But he's got some big projects coming up, which we're excited about, but we can't talk about yet. But
yeah,
he's
he
got,
was cool.
He's
Yeah.
incredible.
I real quick, I also want to shout you can tell me her name, but the best friend, the girl.
Enva Lewis.
I
Yeah,
thought
I
you
was
were
I
gonna
was
say
just
her.
gonna shout
Yeah,
her. Yeah,
she
I was
was-
gonna say yeah.
She's captivating.
She's
She's
really
amazing.
incredible, and it was really fun. We screened the film for friends and family here, and people took to her so much, which was
Yeah.
exciting. And she really got a ton of laughs. I think the humor really translated here.
Yeah.
But we were to say Enva Lewis is another incredibly talented member of our cast, and she had her first role in a film called How to Have Sex, directed by Molly Manning Walker. Yeah, that was really big in the UK. I don't think it broke. Didn't
I think
have
we
as
talked
big of
about
a...
it on the podcast actually.
Oh,
Someone
cool.
brought it up as a film they like.
Yeah,
amazing.
I think that's something we would shout out because it was also a first-time feature female feature director who's incredibly talented and is also an amazing cinematographer. And so much young talent is in this film, and it really captures this youthful partying that can be so dark and lead to some, kind of dark scenarios, and highlight friendship and different dynamics that just feel really real. And Enva plays the best friend in that film. So I think that's something we would shout out and encourage people to watch who haven't heard of it or haven't seen it.
Yeah. And I think that's streaming as well.
It's on Mubi, I think, now. Yeah.
Cool. Sweet. Well, I had so much fun talking to you guys.
Thank you.
I hope you had fun.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So much fun.
So
We
much
could
fun.
chat for forever. I'm sure this is a very long episode. Sorry.
No,
everybody.
this is completely normal.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. All right. Well, now it's time to get lost.
Good evening.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave us 5 stars on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. To stay in touch, follow our Instagram page at It's Intermission Time and share with your friends. As always, Intermission is produced by Jazeel Chu and Olivia Dean, and of course, hosted by yours truly, Megan Braun. This episode is brought to you by The Synagogue.